We are live once again, this time for another NASCAR Fantasy Podcast episode where we're going to talk all things leading up into the Cup Series race weekend. Of course, the Cup Series race is going to be on Saturday night this week at Martinsville under the lights. It is supposed to be the first night race at Martinsville with fans, so that'll be nice. Seeing some fans in attendance, more than what we saw for the playoff races last year, and there weren't any fans last season that were able to go in for the fall race as well. So we are coming in here with my hot takes, with my predictions for this podcast here today. So thanks for everybody tuning in. We already have 5 people watching for this one. And yeah, thanks, Justin Sozio. Welcome to the stream, being the first one in the chat. And you guys that are familiar with the channel, familiar with the I guess new to the streams now, but the predictions video that we did in the past, we'll talk about drivers who you should look out for this weekend, whether there may be sleeper picks for your fantasy team or my must-haves that I'll get into, and drivers that you do not want to have. And then we'll just kind of talk about those drivers, the seasons that they have been having, and then leading into today's race. We'll recap my power rankings that were adjusted from, I guess, 2 weeks ago now, because it's been a couple weeks. We had an off week last week for Easter, so we were off for the podcast last week. But should be a lot of fun here in today's video, to say the least. Jackson Thomas, welcome to the stream as well. So if you play NASCAR Fantasy, this is the place to be. Before we jump into that, that's a good segue. NASCAR Fantasy League is looking pretty good right now. Again, we have 11 entries. The last I had mentioned about it, we might have more than that now. I guess in the process of me stating how you can join, I'll look up to exactly see what the league is looking like right now. But yes, you can go to the NASCAR app or NASCAR website, go to the fantasy section. If you don't have a fantasy team or any sort of information down for that yet, all you have to do is sign up with your email. You can search for KRC League, KRC in all caps, and then League, and hit join, because you have your chance to win tickets to any choosing of your, I said that weird, you can win tickets to any NASCAR race of your choosing in 2022. I will buy you 2 tickets for that one. So that is the prize for winning this league at the end of the regular season here. So we still have, see, we had 7 races, 19 races to go until the playoffs. We just started. Do you have a league? Yes, exactly. As I just stated, you can join the league. Those are the ways that you can get in, and we'll talk all things fantasy, all things, again, Martinsville Cup race coming into this weekend. I will look at the chat, any questions you guys might have. I'll kind of ramble and talk about maybe some questions leading into the weekend, but first and foremost, we have to start off with the starting lineup. I do have pictures of that. So here is the starting lineup for Martinsville on Saturday night. Again, 2 nights away. Usually we do these the day of the race. I know this is a couple days before the fact, but because I have to work on Saturday, there's going to be no opportunity for us to do this podcast a couple hours before the race starts, because I'm not even going to get home myself until about an hour and a half, maybe less than that, before the race starts on Saturday night. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the starting lineup right now. Row number 1, you've got Joey Logano on the pole with Denny Hamlin outside pole in second. Logano coming off that win at Dirt Bristol. Hamlin has 6 top 5s this season, looking for that first win. William Byron, Ryan Blaney each have a win themselves. Byron at Homestead, Blaney at Atlanta, both 1.5 miles. They come into this race starting row number 2. Chase Elliott, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in row 3, both winless this year. Martin Truex Jr. with 1 win on the season. Newman with none starts in row 4. And rounding out the top 10, in row number 5, it'll be Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski, also 2 drivers in the top 10 in points without a win. Daniel Suarez, Kyle Busch will be back in row number 6. Row 7, Tyler Reddick, Michael McDowell, the Daytona 500 winner. Row number 8, Chris Buescher, Eric Jones. Row number 9, Ryan Preece and Austin Dillon. Row 10, the 200 cars of Alex Bowman and Kyle Larson and Alex Bowman. Larson with 1 win on the season. Larson starting on the inside of that row. Kurt Busch, Matt DiBenedetto back in row number 11 for this race. Christopher Bell also with 1 win on the season, starting way back in the field. In row number 12 on the inside, outside of him will be Chase Briscoe, the rookie. Bubba Wallace, who's had good success here in the past in lower series, will start inside of row 13. Cole Custer will start outside row 13. Ross Chastain, J.J. Yaley, row 14. A couple more backmarker cars in row 15 of Quinn Houff, Justin Haley, Eric Almirola, who has probably been the most struggling driver of the veterans, especially so far this season, will start all the way back in row 16 with Cody Ware, Josh Bilicki, Corey LaJoie in row 17. LaJoie had a pretty stout run for Go Fast last year in the first Martinsville race. Alfredo and McLeod will be back in row 18. McLeod back in the car after sitting out the last two races, just deciding to take the team owner role and everything and not the driver role. And James Davidson will round out the field. There will be 37 cars on the entry list starting this race on Saturday night. Okay, that you don't need to look at that again. I clicked the wrong button. I went back to the start. Okay, there we go. Now we're back to where we need to be. Gonna have Brad and Truex on my team. Yep, so this is the next segue here. We are going to talk, again, fantasy. And we're going to start off with the drivers that you should stay away from in your fantasy lineup for this week. These are two drivers that I have on my, or that I will not have on my fantasy team. I don't think you guys should put them on your fantasy team, and we'll go in depth and tell you why. First driver we're going to start off on the list is going to be Kevin Harvick. Stewart-Haas Racing as a whole has not been that great this season. I think we've all really kind of seen that over the first 7 races of the year. They haven't shown speed. The one thing I will state is that Kevin Harvick has been the only one of the Stewart-Haas cars to run anywhere sort of consistent. He has finished in the top 10 in all but 2 of the first 7 races. So Harvick has had speed while the others have not, but Harvick struggled at Martinsville. A lot of people remember him struggling in the Martinsville fall race where he got eliminated in the round of 8 of the playoffs, didn't score any stage points, and failed to finish inside the top 10 and really run there throughout the course of the race. But also in the spring race, or the original spring race, I guess it wasn't ran until June, but in the first Martinsville race last season as well, under the lights, as this one will be from start to finish, Kevin Harvick did not do good in that race either, as Harvick did not finish in the top 10. In fact, he finished 15th in that one. So he struggled in both Martinsville races last season to go along with the Stewart-Haas Racing speed as well. Harvick has only led laps in the Daytona 500 this season. He has not led laps in the 6 races since then. And for Kevin Harvick's Martinsville stats, we mentioned the last 2 races, he has finished 15th or worse both last season. But in the last 9 races at Martinsville, he has not led a single lap at this racetrack. And in the last 10 Martinsville races, he's had 5 finishes of 15th or worse. So not just the 2 from last season, he's got 3 others in the last 8 races prior to that where he finished 15th or worse, and he never got in an accident. He just flat out didn't have the speed, whatever it was. He just did not compete at all in those races. And again, without leading laps so far this season, I don't expect him to be towards the front. Maybe he could shock us and get a top 10 this week. That's very well possible. It is Kevin Harvick, but it's just not a smart pick. There are a lot of other smarter picks that we'll get into when we talk about even sleepers, for instance, that we're going to talk about today, as well as drivers that are must-haves who I think you should have in your lineup. But I wouldn't go with Kevin Harvick. Again, Stewart-Haas Racing as a whole has just, they've not been where they need to be or where we should have them be this season. It is very well likely that Stewart-Haas Racing can field 1 car in the 16-driver playoff this year. I mean, the way Briscoe and Almirola are running 27th and 28th in points, I don't see those 2 pointing their way in. I see them having to win a race. Is that possible? Yes, it's still possible. Almirola's got a couple career wins on super speedways. We go to Talladega in a couple weeks. I expect Almirola to do pretty well there and maybe compete for the win. But that's putting a lot of stake in those last 2 super speedway races in the playoffs for Almirola. And for Briscoe's sake, he is a rookie. He could start to get the hang of things here about halfway through the season. That's going to be too little too late. He is pretty good on the road courses. We have a lot more of those on the schedule. I think I look at Indianapolis road course towards the end of the regular season as being one of those races that he can maybe spotlight and have a chance to win. But those guys are definitely struggling. And then you look at Cole Custer, very similar in points to those guys. He's ahead of those 2 right now, but he's still sitting just outside the top 20. And again, just like those other 2, might have to win a race. Of course, he only made the playoffs last year because he ended up winning at Kentucky late on a restart, and that one only led 4 laps in that race as well, or I should say 4 laps all season, including the last 2 in that race. So Custer definitely underwhelming as well. And Kevin Harvick has been sliding back the last couple weeks. He did not run well at Dirt Bristol in the Cup race. He did not really score hardly any stage points, and he finished outside the top 10. So I don't expect, again, Harvick to run well. I'd keep him out of your lineups this week. Is Saturday Cup race. Yes, Trevor Grimes and Tyler Brayback, welcome to the stream, by the way. Yes, the race, again, is Saturday night. I believe the drop of the green flag is 7:45, according to NASCAR right now, so it'll probably be closer to 7:50. So 7:45 roughly will be the drop of the green flag for this race. And we will be live streaming the race as well this weekend on the channel, where I will do my realistic live broadcast as the race is happening. So that will be our stream for Saturday, means we likely won't get a NASCAR heat stream in. We could, because the race is starting 7:45. Like, if I get home, we actually could get a career mode episode in. Those take less than 2 hours anyway. It'd be cutting it close, but I think it's possible. But that's also kind of why we're doing this stream today and not on Saturday, because I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of time. So I thought the race was starting closer to 7. I guess looking at it now, it starts 7:45. And for those of you wondering, the race is also on FS1. So if you don't have cable or are unable to stream the race, join on the channel. That might be your only way of knowing what's going on while the action is happening live. I expect a pretty good outcome. We did that for the truck race, and we had 63 people watching, and that was on FS1 at Dirt Bristol. So I expect us to have good numbers, so I expect to be on my best behavior. Well, no, I'll be on my best behavior, but I expect us to be pretty fluent, definitely, with keeping that realistic broadcast going, that is for sure. But regardless of the fact, we go back into the don't haves. The only other driver I was able to find stats reasonable enough to say you should absolutely not have him in your lineup, and this guy's stats are even worse at Martinsville, is Kyle Larson. Larson's had a great season so far. Going into Dirt Bristol, he has scored 5 top 10s in the first 6 races. He had a win. He had 3 top 5s in that stretch, and he also had 3 stage wins. Kyle Larson has undoubtedly been a Championship 4 contender in the first 6 races of the season, and in my power rankings list, I actually have him 3rd on the power rankings so far this year going into this week. So, in my personal opinion, I think he is a top 3 driver so far this season. The one thing Kyle Larson has going against him going into this week is simply just the fact that he has not run well at Martinsville in the past. In the 12 career races Kyle Larson has in the Cup Series at Martinsville, he only has 2 top 10s. That is an outstanding number, yes. 12 starts, 2 top 10s. That means 10 races. He has not finished in the top 10 of the Cup Series at this racetrack. I know most of those races are, actually all those races are with Chip Ganassi Racing and not with Hendrick Motorsports. Hendrick Motorsports has better equipment than Chip Ganassi Racing, but the one thing that short tracks and road courses seem to kind of bring out is that the equipment is almost not as, it doesn't matter as much as what it would on these higher horsepower intermediate tracks, or at least these faster intermediate tracks where you just have to have equipment just as much as what you need driver talent and handling of the race car. It almost seems like you're reliant more on the driver's talents for the short tracks and road courses. And Kyle Larson, although he's a very talented driver, for one reason or another, he's just not good at the flatter Martinsville. I just don't think it suits his driving style as much. I think that could be a lot of it. Of course, everybody knows for Kyle Larson to wanting to run the Larson line, the high line on the racetrack, really try to work multiple grooves. Martinsville doesn't have multiple grooves. It is a hang around the bottom and go. We've seen some drivers be able to kind of diamond cut the corner, starting high, cutting low, and then letting the car ride back out. You can't do that in side-by-side traffic here, especially on restarts. It's going to be every man for themselves at that point. And Kyle Larson does not have a good starting spot this week. Remember, he is starting right around 20th in this race. So with the shorter first 2 stages, especially the first stage, if Larson's struggling out of the gate, especially because we know him not to run very well at this racetrack, that is very concerning. And it's not like Kyle Larson has only 2 top 10s in the race at this track. Kyle Larson's only got 1 top 10 in the last 7 races at Martinsville. So again, kind of staggering that he just does not run well at this racetrack. He did not run at this racetrack at all last season, with missing as well after the COVID pandemic due to his suspension from NASCAR. So not only he doesn't have a good track history, he hasn't raced at this racetrack in over a year and a half by the time the green flag waves on Saturday night. I don't expect Larson, especially without practice and qualifying, again adding on to it, I don't see Kyle Larson really performing well at all. I expect him to run outside the top 10 most of the day. I don't expect him to finish in the top 10. I think, like Kevin Harvick, track, just not a lot of recent success. Kyle Larson's had little to no success at this racetrack. This is going to help my lineup since I have a few. Yeah, exactly. Whether you're new to fantasy, whether you're not, whether you just want to hear my analysis of the race coming up to this weekend. Again, that's why we bring our stats. But yeah, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Larson, I'd stay away from those two. Definitely. I'm seeing some of your guys' picks down in the chat below. I appreciate that. I'll get into my race win picks and my must-haves a little bit later. But by the way, Logano, I will hint, is a pretty good pick there, Trevor. So, again, stay tuned to see what happens there. These podcasts only run for an hour. So at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, this stream will be done. Again, we simply just talk about the race leading up to it. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, any topics going into the race as well, but we don't have a lot with the off week happening last week as well. We kind of covered most of Dirt Bristol, pretty much all of Dirt Bristol, the Dirt Bristol weekend with the live streams of the truck, the Cup race, the post-race stream for the Cup Series with the podcast, and then the pre-race stream as well on that Sunday evening when the race got originally rained out. And then we did some dirt racing ourselves on the channel too, virtually. So we covered a lot with Dirt Bristol already a couple weeks ago. No need to cover anything from that this weekend. So now we walk into the sleeper picks. I have two more picks for sleepers. These aren't guys that necessarily you would see on a weekly basis running inside the top 10, so that's how I kind of consider with these sleeper picks. They're drivers that maybe don't have as many wins, or for one reason or another, they're kind of on the decline on their career and haven't, competed for wins as much over the last few seasons as well. So two drivers I have on here. We're going to start off with Matt DiBenedetto. DiBenedetto finished in the top 10 in both Martinsville races last season. DiBenedetto has struggled out of the gate so far this season, but unlike what Eric Almirola and Chase Briscoe might have done in the Ford camp at Stewart-Haas, the Ford camp for the Wood brothers, and this 21 team has turned it around slightly in the last couple of weeks. I think if you would have asked me 4 weeks ago, I wouldn't have considered Matt DiBenedetto, or even 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have considered Matt DiBenedetto a sleeper pick anytime soon because of the speed that they have shown. But they're slowly starting to pick up the pace just a little bit. And coming into this race, Matt DiBenedetto, again, he finished 7th and 10th last year in both Martinsville races. I don't think he's going to contend for a win this weekend. But I don't even know necessarily that he's going to score a lot of stage points. He is starting further back in the field. That's going to hurt his chances of scoring any sort of points in Stage 1. There will be a competition yellow at some point in Stage 1 that we know of, but even still, I don't see DiBenedetto scoring a lot of stage points. If he does score stage points, he'll probably be in the back half of the top 10 anyway, but it could be a solid start for your fantasy lineup if he just does that and finishes in the top 10. It's very likely, that's for sure, and I do think Matt DiBenedetto has a good chance to do something good this weekend. I can see him definitely getting a top 10 run, so that's kind of my predictions for Matt DiBenedetto this weekend. I do think he will get a top 10 finish. Raji, welcome to the stream, by the way. So, on to the next sleeper pick, Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch has finished in the top 12 in the last 6 Martinsville races. In that 6-race stretch, he has 4 top 10s. Kurt Busch has not had a particularly good season or start to the season so far this year. Most people generally consider Kurt Busch the last pretty much 2 to 3 seasons. Even those last couple years he was with Stewart-Haas, win probably 1 race a season, consistently stay in the top 10 in points, make it to the round of 8, maybe the round of 12 in the playoffs, and that's about it. Not really a championship contender anymore. So that's why Kurt Busch is in the sleeper category. But he does have good success. Also, his stats don't indicate that he is an absolute must-have either. Again, top 12s are nice, but it's not like those top 5s and top 10s like I'm going to get into with the drivers that have kind of dominated at this racetrack in recent years. But Kurt Busch, definitely, if there's one bad side to him being the sleeper pick and maybe one counteract that why is Kurt Busch a sleeper pick, I don't think he should be a sleeper pick. would be simply that Chip Ganassi Racing has not looked good this year. I don't take a lot of stock into Ross Chastain. Chastain's in his first year with the team, but with Kurt Busch obviously being there now for his third season, Kurt Busch is sitting 15th in the point standings, looking at it on my phone right now. So Kurt Busch 15th in points. Yes, he's in the top 16. He does have 2 top 10s and 1 top 5 this season. The top 5 came at the Daytona Road Course, if I remember correctly. And 2 top 10s in 7 races, it's not the greatest. He's basically in the top 15 in points because of the stage points he scored this season. I look at Atlanta being one of those races where it looked like he was going to have a chance to win the race, if not being involved in an accident there early in stage 2 after basically getting shoved into the wall by Denny Hamlin on a restart. So it was definitely not Kurt Busch's fault. And that could have been the turnaround of momentum going for him. I don't put a lot of stock into what happened at Dirt Bristol last week going forward unless your driver or a driver had a really good day. That could lead to good momentum going forward. But if you had a bad race there, I don't put a lot of stock into that. Same thing with Kyle Larson. I know he's on the don't haves and he did crash out at Dirt Bristol last weekend, but honestly, I didn't even mention that at all and the reasons why you shouldn't put him in the lineup. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. Stay away and don't pick Austin Dillon at Martinsville. I didn't really look too much into Austin Dillon at Martinsville. So far this season, his stats are similar to Kurt Busch. 2 top 10s, 1 top 5. The top 5 came in the Daytona 500 when he finished in 3rd. But Austin Dillon has scored more stage points than Kurt Busch, so that's a plus side, I guess, for his sake this weekend. Let me look on Racing Reference to see what Austin Dillon is looking like. Austin Dillon, Martinsville stats. Yeah, I didn't really look into him too much. I guess that's never really a good thing if I don't see him as a must-have or a sleeper. Probably wouldn't be a guy that you would generally think of to have in your lineup. 23rd, 37th, and 22nd, the last 3 races for him there. He had 11th and 2019. That's not bad. And then the 2 races before that 11th were 30th and 30th. So yes, he is not. He's only finished better than 22nd place once in the last 6 races at Martinsville. I guess Austin Dillon would be another don't have in the lineup for sure. I did not notice that, but thanks, Tyler, for maybe spewing that out. I had to check simply because I haven't really checked a lot on him this week going in. But yeah, I guess Austin Dillon would slide right into that don't have. But as far as my don't haves, again, Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, and now the sleeper picks, Kurt Busch and Matt DiBenedetto. We get into the must-haves for this week. I have 4 drivers that you should absolutely start in your lineup. Of course, you have 5 drivers that are in your starting lineup when the lineups lock at the end of Stage 2. You have until the end of Stage 2 to completely set your lineup, and you have that 1 garage driver. So really you're picking 6 drivers, but then at the end of Stage 2 it gets locked in as 5. Those are the 5 that you have in your lineup for the race that you'll actually get scored points for. So these are 4 drivers I think that you should absolutely have in your lineup. Obviously, you don't have to take my advice. You're also competing against me in the fantasy lineup as well, so I can understand if you don't want to take the advice necessarily. But here are the facts for the 4 drivers I'm about to state. We're going to start off with the guy that won the most recent race at Dirt Bristol. Joey Logano is a must-have in my lineup, and I think Joey Logano is a must-have in your guys' lineups for this Martinsville race. We know him as winning the fall 2018 Martinsville race when he completely basically ran over Truex in turns 3 and 4, but he had a good run all day long, and it's more than just that 1 win. Obviously, he's got the 1 win more recently in 2018 within the last few years, but also Joey Logano has finished in the top 10 9 times in the last 11 Martinsville races. So in the last 11 races, Logano has finished in the top 10 9 times. That is very easy success to say that he is going to have a good day this weekend. And he's got the momentum after winning the last race at Dirt Bristol. That is also going to help. He also won a stage that day too. Joey Logano is also starting on the pole this weekend, so a good chance he will score a lot of stage points and hopefully keep that track position for that sake to try and keep that alive. And Logano currently in the point standings is sitting 2nd, so he has been probably one of the more consistent drivers, definitely one of the more consistent drivers this year. His stats currently sit at 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s and 7 starts with 2 stage wins and 1 race win right now. And he's scoring a lot of stage points despite only the 4 top 10. Well, 4 top 10s is still good. That's not as many as, say, Hamlin or Larson or even Truex has the same amount of top 10s as him. he's got one more than Keselowski. So 4 top 10s in 7 races is obviously good on the stats looking compared to everybody else so far this season. So I'm high on Joey Logano. I'm high on his radar to have to run well this week. Monster Jam X10, welcome to the stream. I've got a cheer for Larson. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for you guys cheering for your favorite drivers. I just don't think Larson's going to run well, particularly there. Mr. I like your PJs Hamlin wins at Martinsville. That is a statement right there. And your sleeper pick is Alex Bowman. Yeah, Bowman's stats at Martinsville last year were pretty good. That's the only reason I kept him off the sleeper pick is because it was only last year. With DiBenedetto, I know his stats were only good there last year, but DiBenedetto hasn't been in nearly as good of equipment as what Alex Bowman has the last 3 seasons. So that's the only reason I didn't put Bowman in the sleeper pick, but that's not a bad pick for your fantasy teams by any means this weekend as well. I just didn't mention him in my short list. Again, I have to keep the list short because if I spoil my fantasy team too much with the must-haves, I can already tell you every week are going to be in my fantasy team. Sometimes I take my advice of the sleeper picks and sometimes I don't. I should probably take it more often because it seems like it's been working this year and I haven't gone with my own advice a lot, so I should probably start going with my own advice. But yeah, definitely I would say that Bowman could have a pretty good day this weekend as well. I would not be surprised. Larson's not my favorite driver, just in the league, and Blaney's my guy. All right, Blaney's my guy too. I guess while we talk about Blaney, he's the next guy on this must-have list. Again, I'm unbiased with my picks. I say that every week, and more often than not, it proves to be correct with the stats that I bring to the table, and whether they do run well or they don't run well. Dirt Bristol, my fantasy team didn't do good, and the things that I had going in, the must-haves, did not run particularly well with Bell and Larson because of that bad finish there, but everything else seemed to roll pretty good. With Dirt Bristol, the sleeper picks, I had Stenhouse and Newman. They both ran in the top 10, finished in the top 10. So I did do good last week to a certain extent, breaking down the Dirt Bristol race, but with the must-haves, I was off on that one. But who would have... I don't think anybody saw those two crashing out before the end of stage 1, especially in the same accident. And that was after a loss of car control. It wasn't like it was a mechanical failure on either one of those two as well. So that was definitely tough. But again, I try not to take too much stock in the Dirt Bristol. But outside of Dirt Bristol and the Daytona 500, I mean, we've been on it with the fantasy so far this year. I'm towards the top in the leagues and currently sitting P3. But regardless of the fact, again, we've done pretty well. The only thing we haven't done well with is we haven't predicted the winner right so far this season. So hopefully we can finally do that for the first time. Predicted the winner right 9 times last year. Which is, I mean, that's a quarter of the season. That's actually really, really good. That's tough to beat those. So this year I was hoping to get 10 and top that. We're 0 for 7 right now. So even though I have picked the race winner, or predicted for the race winner a lot this season, but they finished like second, third. They've been close. They're just not going to victory lane. Like I picked Keselowski, I think, a couple times, and he's got a couple top 3 finishes. I picked Truex, at Atlanta, and he ran close to the front but didn't actually get it done. So, I mean, I picked good guys. They just haven't actually gone to victory lane. I'm an Austin Dillon fan, but I will cheer for him if he wins at Martinsville. But my goodness. Yeah, I mean, you might have to win. I know he's 11th in points. He's doing good for himself right now, but, I mean, with all these different winners, he most certainly might have to win a race. You never know. And he's done that in the last, 3 seasons, so. Or 3 of the last 4 seasons, I should say. But, yeah, still a really good chance that Austin Dillon could steal a win. Be one of the more shocking drivers to win again this season for sure. All right, so we were about to talk about Ryan Blaney. Not to Ryan Blaney. We were about to talk about Ryan Blaney, and here is why. Ryan Blaney is one of the must-haves. He will be on my fantasy team this week, and I think he should be in yours as well, just like his teammate Joey Logano. Ryan Blaney has 4 straight top 5s at Martinsville. Comment down below in the chat how many people actually knew that. I actually knew that he ran well. I do remember him finishing second in both races last season, but I did not. I don't remember him exactly getting 4 top 5s, but I remember him running pretty well at Martinsville in recent races. So again, 2 straight runner-ups. He finished second and second both Martinsville races last year. He actually led a lot of laps in stage 1 at Martinsville last season. He won the first stage at Martinsville last year. And again, 4 straight top 5s. He has 6 top 10s in the last 7 Martinsville starts. and 5 top 5s in the last 7 races as well. The last 6 races, because it was a third place finish there in 2018, the spring race. So the last 6 Martinsville races, he's got 5 top 5s, 4 straight top 5s, and he's finished runner-up twice. So he's been very close to getting that grandfather clock. And again, he won stage 1 in the first race at Martinsville last year. So I do expect Ryan Blaney to run well this weekend. He's another one of those drivers starting towards the front, much like Logano. Logano starts first, Blaney starts fourth. Blaney's also got a lot of momentum this season. He has finished in the top he's finished in the top 10 in the last 4 races, not only at Martinsville, but this season, including a win 2 races ago, the last time we ran on an asphalt racetrack. So, Martinsville, definitely one of Blaney's better racetracks, and he's riding this hot streak right now, and I'm surprised he even kept that top 10 streak alive last weekend at Dirt Bristol, considering he was in a pretty big accident there down the back straightaway midway through the race, and they still rallied back to get an 8th place finish. So that team has had speed so far this season, outside of the first 3 races. But again, if we look recently, they have had a lot of speed, and they've gone to victory lane. Definitely riding a lot of momentum for Ryan Blaney. I'm pumped for this weekend. I'm pumped for Saturday night. I think Blaney can actually contend for a win, and it would not surprise me if he goes to victory lane. What will surprise me is if he wins his second race this early in the year. The fact that he actually has a good shot to be the first multi-time winner this season gives me a lot of hype, and I'm sure it gives a lot of Ryan Blaney fans a lot of hype for this season. We expected that Ryan Blaney was going to maybe break out, but we've kind of been saying this since he moved to the 12 car in 2018. We're still waiting for it. He's got to win really, really early this season. And again, this is a new Ryan Blaney. He shocked me at Atlanta pulling off the win when I didn't think anybody could catch Larson. And then he also shocked me last week when he ran top 10 after, completely demolishing the left side of his race car, especially around the left rear tire. The whole fender was basically taken off, and he still wheeled that thing into the 8th place finish there. And he only had the last stage really to do it because that wreck happened midway through stage 2. So, again, Ryan Blaney, definitely high on my radar for this weekend. He's up to 7th in points as well. I mentioned 4 straight top 10s. He's got 2 top 5s and that stage win also at Phoenix earlier this year. So, Ryan Blaney is another must-have. We have 2 more must-haves here tonight. I think you guys kind of see the trend going here with the must-haves. We've got Brad Keselowski on the must-have list as well. I know I'm a Ryan Blaney fan, and that would consider me, I guess, technically a Penske Racing fan. This is not biased by any means. Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano, they have the stats. So does Brad Keselowski. Keselowski's stats are far better than Blaney's, and similar to Logano's, but not. They're still better than Logano's stats. Brad Keselowski has 10 straight top 10s at Martinsville. He's got the longest top 10 streak at this racetrack, and he's got 5 straight top 5s. So while Blaney's got 4 straight top 5s, Keselowski one-ups him there with 5 straight top 5s. Keselowski also has won 2 races of the last 8 at Martinsville versus Blaney has not won at Martinsville yet, and Logano has only won there once in recent years. So Brad Keselowski is probably one of the highest drivers up there on my radar to compete for the win this weekend. Another driver that's starting inside the top 10. Unlike his Penske teammates, he does not have a win this season, but I would say that Keselowski has been closer to winning more races than Blaney this year, and just as close to winning about as many races as Logano. Logano, of course, came close to winning almost the first 2 races of the year, on top of him winning Dirt Bristol, and then Keselowski had great runs on the mile and a half this season, but couldn't quite seal the deal at Vegas. Larson kind of passed him there in the final stage and really ran away with it. And as well, Keselowski looked fast early at Homestead but couldn't hang on there as well. Got beat by another Hendrick car. So although Brad Keselowski has had speed this season, the only downfall to Keselowski being a must-have is that the last 2 races have not gone his way. He has finished outside the top 10 of the last 2 races. He did kind of somewhat recover at Dirt Bristol, finished 12th last week, and then Atlanta, we know the week before that, he had a lot of damage on the nose of his car and finished outside the top 25. So Brad Keselowski is a must-have this week. I put a lot of stock into him for sure. He is definitely going to be one of the favorites to win the race. The only thing riding against him is the momentum that 2 team in general has had the last 2 weeks, but I think the overall momentum that Penske's had with winning the last 2 races, they've got a very good shot to win 3 races in a row. between Blaney, Logano, and Keselowski, I expect all those guys to run in the top 10 pretty much all day. They all start in the top 10. They've all had some of the best success. I'd say the best success. Those three drivers are in the top 5 as far as success at Martinsville in recent years. So the fact that all those can contend for the win, that is very well possible. All right, now into the final must-have pick. We go to JGR, the driver of the 19, Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr., we have known him to not winning on a short track in his career for the longest time. Until one night, he finally broke through and won on a short track, and he won it at Martinsville. And then he won at Richmond, and then he won at Richmond again, and then he won at Martinsville again. So he has had 4 short track wins. Martin Truex Jr. won the last night race at Martinsville last season, the inaugural, night race at Martinsville that started under the lights and ended under the lights. Again, we're not including the playoff races that are mostly in the day, and then the last 50 laps are at night. So we're not including those races in that aspect, but we can include them as far as laps led. CE9, welcome to the stream. Chase Elliott will win. That is another possible outlook. For sure, he definitely won there last fall. But again, Martin Truex Jr., he has led a lot of laps in the last 3 races at Martinsville. So 3 races total, both of them last year, and then the fall race in 2019. He has led 129 laps in the fall race last year. He won 132 laps in the spring race that he won at Martinsville last year. And then he won the fall race at Martinsville in 2019, leading 464 laps in that race. So, in those last 3 races combined, you easily do the math there, and he has led over 700 laps at Martinsville in the last 3 races. That is ungodly. He's led almost half the laps combined in the last 3 Martinsville races. How could you not put him on your fantasy team with those stats alone? Then you consider the fact that, again, he has won twice in the last 4 races at Martinsville. Also, he has 6 top 10s in the last 7 races. Almost 6 straight, but not quite. 6 top 10s in the last 7 races and 5 top 5s in the last 7 races at Martinsville. Again, the 2 wins are the big ones there, the big outliers. So I expect Martin Truex Jr. to be on your guys' fantasy lineup this weekend. And yeah, LOL, he won Martinsville last year. Yeah, he did win Martinsville last year in the spring race, not the second race, but still, he's obviously had a lot of success there in recent years. And like I said, he's led over 700 laps in the last 3 races at Martinsville alone. I didn't even count the laps that he ended up winning a race there. No, I guess I would have. Yeah, he won there the last 2 seasons. Okay, so yeah, never mind. Just a funny statement. Quinn Houff wins at Martinsville. That ain't happened. Rest in peace to all playoff drivers if that happens. It's the most NASCAR Heat 5 thing to have happen. That is definitely a Heat 5 thing. That's like a Heat 5 if you crash out of the race and then it randomizes the finishing order. That would be like the only way Quinn Houff would win, even on NASCAR Heat 5. Or on a super speedway, I guess, but... Quinn Houff is not going to victory lane this season. He's not even in the top 30 in points either. We ripped on Quinn Houff a little bit last week, so I kind of feel bad that we're about to rip on him this week. A win does not guarantee Quinn Houff a chance in points. He's 31st in points, so he is outside the top 30, and you would think, he's only 1 spot out. He's not that far off, but he is actually 22 points behind Anthony Alfredo in the 38, so yeah. He's only 6 points ahead of Jamie McMurray, and McMurray made 1 start this season, and Quinn Houff has started all 7 races. Quinn Houff, even if he somehow wins on a super speedway or something, it's likely not going to make the playoffs still. But anyway, to go away from that again, Martin Truex Jr. in the must-have. So the 4 must-have drivers, if you have missed the stream so far, or have not gone back and watched it from the beginning, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, are the 4 drivers I will have on my fantasy team. 4 drivers I think you guys should have on your fantasy team. Sleepers for this weekend, Matt DiBenedetto and Kurt Busch. I expect Matt DiBenedetto to finish in the top 10, and I do expect Kurt Busch to keep the top 12 streak alive and make it 7 straight top 12s in a row. And the don't-haves, I do have Kevin Harvick and Kyle Larson as drivers that I will not have in my fantasy lineup this weekend, nor I think you guys should not have in your fantasy lineup as well this weekend. The only other thing now we have to get in here in the last roughly 15 minutes of the stream is the power rankings from last week. We obviously couldn't adjust it last week because of Easter. They did not race, so no adjustments from Dirt Bristol to this week, but we're just going to quickly recap the top 10 and explain maybe drivers who can move up or down in the power rankings and maybe new drivers who can hop into the power rankings this week that were left off. Starting off, number 1, we have Denny Hamlin. He's very good at Martinsville. I did not put Denny Hamlin in the must-have situation because last season he finished 11th and 24th at Martinsville in both races, so I was pumping the brakes a little bit, putting Hamlin in the must-haves as well. I didn't want to overload the must-haves also, and the other 4 drivers have had better statistics more recently than him there, and even Matt DiBenedetto, one of the sleeper picks, has had better, and Kurt Busch. So yeah, we've had better options here recently than Denny Hamlin. Hamlin does have a bunch of wins at Martinsville in his career, mostly earlier in his career, but he still has a bunch of wins there. So don't be surprised if he maybe competes up towards the front by the end of the race, even though he is not on the must-have list, and he is starting in row 1 as well, starts second. So Denny Hamlin's got a good shot, very, very good chance to stay number 1 on the power rankings for next week. Number 2 is Joey Logano after that win. Again, he was kind of falling down the power rankings leaderboard until he got that win, and we bumped him right back up into the top 3 again. So Joey Logano is second going into this week. Kyle Larson is third going into this week. If Larson would have even just ran top 10 at Dirt Bristol, I mentioned he was going to be second because I think he was more consistent than Logano. But now they both have a win, and Logano's 2 spots ahead of Larson in points, so I had to drop Larson back behind Joey Logano. Martin Truex Jr. rounds out the top 4. He's third in points. So those are the top 4. My championship 4, 7 races into the season. And drivers who can maybe move into that, Brad Keselowski, if he wins this weekend, I think you can maybe consider Keselowski to move back in to the top 4. He is sitting 5th right now on my power rankings list. He's also 5th in the points standings. Right behind him, Ryan Blaney. Blaney is 6th right now in the points standings. In the power rankings, 7th in the points standings. And then behind Blaney, we have Kevin Harvick, who might be 8th in points, but I do think Harvick has had a pretty consistent season, obviously, this year. Harvick has scored 5 top 10s and 2 top 5s so far this year, so he is definitely, although I don't think he's going to run well this weekend, I guess we can consider Kevin Harvick maybe one of the drivers that can move back after this weekend, drop outside the top 7. He doesn't have a win this year, like all these other drivers, 7 of them in the top 10 right now on my power rankings list. So it is possible, especially if somebody outside the power rankings list, like Chase Elliott or Kyle Busch, who are like just on the outside, if they win a race, they can jump in. The guy that they're probably going to jump is going to be Kevin Harvick, because the 3 guys below Kevin Harvick in 8th, 9th, and 10th are William Byron, who's 6th in points. He's got to win. I don't see him falling outside the top 10, at least. And Byron does have a career second-place run at Martinsville in the spring 2018 race. He finished second, so you never know. The spring 2019 race, not 2018. Spring 2019 race, he finished second, but he had a good run there, so he has had a little bit of success at Martinsville, and Hendrick has been fast this year. Again, he's 6th in points. I think we can maybe talk about William Byron jumping ahead of Kevin Harvick in the power rankings this week. And if Keselowski underperforms for the 3rd week in a row and maybe doesn't finish in the top 10 miraculously, I think he will run top 10 all race. But if he doesn't finish top 10, we can maybe talk about bumping William Byron into the top 5, honestly, ahead of Brad Keselowski. He's definitely flying under the radar. He had that win, and then everybody's kind of hopped off of the Byron bandwagon, it seems like. I haven't heard as much roar with William Byron and William Byron fans that are out there as far as him, contending for a top 10 points run this year, or maybe a round of 8 entry, but I mean, he's 6th in points, guys. He's had a quiet but good season. He's got 5 top 10s in 7 races. What more could you ask out of William Byron? He's got a win, he's got 5 top 10s, he's got a stage win, so he's got 6 playoff points, and he's 6th in points. William Byron has more top 5s than Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Busch. Those are the names that William Byron has more top 10s than so far this season. So if you mean to tell me that William Byron should not be on my power rankings list. Bye. No, I'm kidding. Stick around. But yeah, William Byron, he has really done very, very well this year. He's been the second driver at Hendrick behind Kyle Larson, that is for sure. So Byron's 8th. Again, Christopher Bell 9th. And Michael McDowell's still sitting 10th on the power rankings list. McDowell's 12th in points. So although his 3 top 10s came in the first 3 races, in the last 4 races he has not finished in the top 10, he still has 3 top 15s, so he's still running very good, and considering the fact he's in Front Row Motorsports equipment, indeed. If we start to get more than 10 different winners, there's a good chance McDowell's going to move outside the top 10 of the power rankings, but for right now, he's in, and unless Chase Elliott or Kyle Busch win this weekend, to bump McDowell out, I mean, that's like the only way I see McDowell coming out this weekend, or and jump into the top 10. Some of those other guys move up, like Byron, who has a very good chance of moving up this week. Maybe Christopher Bell has a good run. He's still in the top 10 in points as well. And then we bump Harvick out and throw Elliott or, somebody else in there, Kyle Busch, as mentioned. Kurt Busch, I mean, I don't know completely on that, but maybe he wins this weekend. Boy, that'd be insane. That would just only add to the drama we've had so far early in the year. Austin Dillon best tracks are coming up at Richmond and Darlington. Yeah, those are coming very short. Richmond next week, then Darlington the week after Dega, I believe. Mother's Day weekend. No. 2 weeks after, my bad. Where do they go after Dega? I forgot the schedule. I had it memorized there for a while. They go to Kansas. Okay, so they go to Kansas and then Darlington. But yeah. And with you being an Austin Dillon fan too. I have Austin Dillon ahead of McDowell in the power rankings. No. You got to leave your bias out of it, man. It's hard. I can tell you it is hard, but I still think I do a good job of it. You got to keep your heart out of your race picks. Michael McDowell's in the top 10. He's had... Let's compare... Because Austin Dillon is one of those guys just outside as well. Austin Dillon is one spot ahead of Michael McDowell in points. He's 11th. McDowell's 12th. Both exceeding expectations, might I add. McDowell has one more top 10 than Austin Dillon. So there's that. They both have one top 5. And McDowell's got a win over Austin Dillon. Considering the fact that with this playoff format, a win and you're in, as long as we don't have more than 16 winners, Michael McDowell, as long as we don't get more than 16 winners, is absolutely safe. Austin Dillon doesn't have a win. And you mentioned the other guy, or I should mention the other guys that don't have a win this season. Kevin Harvick, that is probably going to get a win this year. Chase Elliott doesn't have a win yet this year. You can maybe throw Bowman in there. Brad Keselowski hasn't won yet. Denny Hamlin hasn't won yet. Yep, I'm probably missing a bunch of names still. So that's 5 drivers. Kurt Busch, I just mentioned that he's won 1 race a year, and runs top 10 in points. So Kurt Busch, that'd be 6. That would already put us at 13. And then, maybe Stewart-Haas Racing gets it going outside of Harvick. I don't know that for sure. I wouldn't say that right now. But that basically leaves 3 spots open. And that's why I don't think we're going to get more than 16 different winners unless we get an upset winner at Talladega. And that's what I mentioned. If we go to Talladega and we have 10 different winners in the first 10 races, but we get an upset winner at Talladega, then I'll start hopping on that bandwagon of we're going to have more than 16 winners. That would be the only way I'm going to do it. Because although we have had 7 different winners, I think you can argue most of them are likely going to win this season. Michael McDowell's probably the only name you could throw in there that probably you wouldn't have expected to win a race this year. But Byron, you can maybe argue that he was going to win a race. Bell, you can probably argue he was going to win a race at some point this year. We just didn't expect those guys to win early. So that's why, although, the hype and everything of getting that many winners in the playoffs, and I mentioned Austin Dillon, maybe getting a win, so we throw Austin Dillon in there as well. That's still 14. The other 2 spots, you're talking about on wins, Stenhouse. Like if Stenhouse wins at Talladega or Almirola wins at Talladega, then yeah, I think we have a good chance to get more than 16 different winners. But then you're still saying that we're going to get at least 2 more underdog winners the rest of the year. How many underdog winners are you going to get? So I don't know if Austin Dillon wins again this year. I don't think you can consider that an underdog win anymore. I mean, that'll be 4 career wins in the last 5 seasons. I don't really think you can consider that like underdog status. I guess maybe a guy like Eric Jones somehow going to victory lane. Bubba Wallace, obviously. Suarez has looked fast in recent weeks. Maybe that team gets it going this year. If guys like that start to win, then, again, if guys like that start to win, that'll be all right. But as far as, like, the middle of the pack guys, McDowell's the only one of those guys that have won so far this year. Everybody else, I think you could have made a good argument. Logano was going to easily win a race or more this year. Truex was going to win a race or more this year. Larson was probably going to win at least one race with Hendrick. We didn't expect it to be that early again, much like Byron and Bell. We didn't expect their wins to be early, but you probably could have assumed that they were going to win and probably make the playoffs this year. Blaney, you would have expected him to win at least one race this season. And those are the guys with wins, so it's kind of what we're looking at. So I'm pumping the brakes. If we get another win. Kyle Busch. So your comment on Kyle Busch is Kyle Busch. nothing more to add or there. Kyle Busch needs to win because this is looking like last year. Yeah, I mean, well, I wouldn't say that. It is looking like last year. I think at the end of the regular season he was 12th in points. He's 13th now. So he's a lot closer to the cutoff line than when he was last year, but we're also 7 races in. I mean, once we get after Talladega, we'll really start to see like where the points are headed. If he's right around 16th still after Dega, in trouble. But these next 2 racetracks, they fit him. Martinsville, he's won there multiple times. Richmond, he's won there a lot. Ran well there. So I expect Busch, even if he doesn't win, to start moving up. I expect him to win at least one race before the playoffs. I have him winning Nashville. I've already told you guys that. I've said that for the last couple weeks at least. Well, I said in the preseason predictions video that I had him winning 3 or 4 races this year, but I didn't have him winning a race until I think the Coke 600 was the first week I had him winning, so that's still another month and a half, a little over a month and a half away yet. Got 2 more minutes to fill up here, 7:30. We're going to clock out. I guess I can get into the outro now. Basically, like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. We do full race live streams of the realistic broadcasts and jump-starting my young broadcasting career, so definitely hop on for there. We are going to have a full race live stream tonight. NASCAR Heat 5 custom schedule mode. We go to Texas Motor Speedway. That will start at the top of the hour at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Why is Texas special on our custom schedule season? What's Texas got to offer? Well, this is one of just 4 races. We are running 50% of the race in the season. It's considered a full race live stream still because of you guys know by now that are familiar with the channel, I do full race live streams. But we are doing a 50% race, one of 4 on this custom schedule season. Texas is one of them, so it'll be only 250 miles. That brings the sense of urgency way up. Also, we have 4 times tire wear. We have 4 times tire wear for that race. So there's going to be, it's a little gimmicky, yes, but all things considered, it should put on a pretty good show. And we've seen good racing on NASCAR Heat 5 on tracks you would consider. Pocono is one of the bigger tracks. I feel like we have a good race there every time we go there, but most people dread Pocono. So expect Texas to maybe overwhelm some of you guys, or at least be better than most recent Texas races in real life. You can probably expect that at least. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. Again, that starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I guess that takes us to 7:30. There we go. Again, like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Help me on my journey into getting into the sport of NASCAR with being a broadcaster. Thanks for everybody watching here today. I did see that Kyle Busch is the best on short tracks, though. That's a very good argument that he is good on short tracks. Even last year when he didn't run particularly well, I mean, outside till Kevin Harvick spun. Well, Harvick spun him trying to go for 8, so I guess he was still in the top 10. But anyway, so long, folks. I'll see you at Texas, top of the hour. Fantasy Podcast will return on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Well, I guess it's going to have to be Monday. So usually we'll go the day after the race. Obviously, if it's on Sunday, it'll be Monday. We're going to have to go Monday still this week because I'm going to a Tigers and Indians baseball game on Sunday. So I probably won't be back by 5. A good chance I won't be back by 5 o'clock. So we will be doing the podcast for the post-race at Martinsville on Monday. So I guess that schedule stays the same. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully you guys join, and that way if the race does get rained out Saturday night, which it looks like right now on the radar they have rain coming, they'll race Sunday, and we'll still end up having it. Hopefully if it does start Sunday, it starts later in the evening. I'm hoping, I'm praying, because I'm going to the game. I'm hoping very big time that they just get the race on Saturday. Anyway, that's enough. I'll see you guys later tonight. Thanks for watching.